It's changed a lot since I've been here, though.
Now, how long have you been retired?
Been retired. I ain't retired.
Oh, okay. Still employed.
I came here in 1952, the first day of June, 1952.
Okay. So you're going to tell.
All right.
Where were you born?
Esto, Florida.
Okay. How did you wind up here?
Well, I went to the Army for 4 years and came back and put an application in at Wiregrass and got a job here. So that was in 1952, first day of June, 1952. Okay. Started off at the right-of-way crew here. And went from the right-of-way crew to construction. Of course, I don't remember what year that was, see, because when I went to construction, see, we dug all the holes by hand. We didn't have no this digging business they got now, see. And then it kind of, as years went along, you know, it kind of improved, you know. And then the last few years, then we got bucket trucks and stuff like that, see. Sure did.
Well, let me ask you, when you were doing construction, were you doing putting in
we were putting in new lines, yeah.
To houses that never had electricity?
Right,
before?
yes.
Well, how was the reception you got?
It was pretty good back then. We supposed to just started off, you know.
And never had electricity? Never
had no electricity, no, not till they, you know, got the lights, you know. My wife was the first man that ever got lights down here in this part of the woods, down in the country on 4 down there.
Well, tell me about that.
Well, his name was Roy White, and he living on Paul Kennedy's place. He's got lights down there, and everybody gathered there on Saturday night for the Grand Ole Opry down there.
A couple stories about setting up people for the first time.
Well, you go out there, you get a second sheet, and you go out there, and you decide where you're going to put the poles at. Then you drill your holes the way we dug them by hand back then, see. And then we got everything ready to go, and then if it's in the right-of-way there, we cut the right-of-way, strung out the wire and all that, and then we pulled it up, sagged it up, and put the transformer on the pole where it belonged at the end of the line. And we run the line from the pole to the house. And we built all that, and then we went back to, well, if there's any poles in between, go back and armor rod them, the poles. And then when we get all armor rodded and the transformer all set up, then we go back and put it on, get the lights out there, see.
Now, when you would do all this, would people come out and watch you?
A lot of people would come out and watch you, but a lot of them wouldn't. They were scared of electricity. See, that we didn't ever have no lights at home till I got grown myself. Well, Dad wouldn't ever have it because he was scared of electricity, see. So, but that's the way it is, so, you know.
What were they scared of? What were they?
Scared they was going to get hurt themselves, you know. They kind of stay out of the way. But now they get out there, now they walk right up there to you now, see. It's changed a lot in the last few years, though.
I bet you, since you were kind of the authority, you know, you were bringing electricity to their houses, what kind of questions would they come out and ask?
Well, they'd ask you how's this going to work now, you know, when you get it to the house. You'd have to tell them how they have to turn on switches and everything in the box, you know, to get the wire run and turn it on out of the box, and then they'd have lights there, see. And it just ticks the funk out of a lot of them, see. Yeah. And then set the meter there, see, and hook it up at the house, on the house. Right to the house and hook it to the house, and then go back and heat, like I say, go back and heat the line up, put it on, and then come back and set your meter. So that's the last thing you done. Always set the meter last, see. And you got them right, so that's made them all smile.
So you used to stick around to make sure the lights
were on. Well, we made sure they come on. See, they still do that now. See, when they build a line, they make sure the lights come on before they leave there.
Okay.
You know, where they won't leave it off.
Well, you said something interesting. Your father never did get electricity, or did he find
My dad didn't ever get electricity. The day my daddy died, we got a man there to wire the house, and we had lights in the house when he was funeral down there.
And what year was this?
Seemed like that was 1965 or something like that, along in there.
Wow.
But Dad never did enjoy lights, because like I said, he was scared of himself.
Okay. So you basically grew up without electricity?
Yes, sir.
What was life like back then?
Well, you just had a lamp, you know. A lot of folks had a Aladdin lamp. A lot of folks just had just a regular old lamp, but you didn't get much light out of the lamp, see. Now, that Aladdin lamp was a pretty good lamp, though. Sure it was.
Now, how did you heat your house and take a bath?
Well, we just had wood back then, is all we had, a fireplace. That's how we heated the house. And if you wanted hot water, you put it on the stove, and a wood stove, and you put it in one of them big boilers, you know, and heat it, and then get a bath in a tub, you know.
How did you refrigerate back then?
Well, you had ice, man, that came around. Come around, you'd buy so much ice, put it in the fireplace, and wrap it up in sacks and keep it in the fireplace, see. That's how you kept your ice. Till they got refrigerators. Then they got refrigerators and we could just put it in them.
After you got out of the Army, you moved here. And were you married at that time? Or?
Yes, sir. When I got out of the Army, I was married. Already married then.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you have electricity in the house that you moved in here?
Yeah, we had electricity already there. We moved in.
And was your wife, had she had electricity before?
They had lights before. That was, yeah.
What's the funniest story you remember, or the most memorable? I say the funniest. Something funny had to happen when you went to show somebody for the first time when they turned their lights on after you wired
It just sort of tickled when they see them lights come on, see. They kind of laugh about that, you know. Sure would.
They give you iced tea and...
No, they didn't have no ice.
Oh, yeah, they didn't.
They might give you water, they give no iced tea, though, you know.
They invite you to stay for dinner?
Well, sometimes they would and sometimes they wouldn't, you know. Both times you're there, or you carried your lunch, you know.
Getting good stuff.
Do you ever remember a time when you went to hook somebody up for electricity and they not only had their lights, but they had maybe an electric stove or some other electric?
Well, a lot of these people to start with didn't have electric stove, but later on they would get the electric stove, see. Well, they cooked on an old wood stove, you know, when we put lights there, and then later on they'd get them electric stove. And a refrigerator too, see.
Well, what did you think when you didn't have electricity, and your father wasn't going to get electricity, but probably some families around your home had?
Yeah, they was just about everybody around else had electricity down there, see.
Well, what did you think about that?
Well, we thought he was kind of nutty, you know, he wouldn't get lights, you know, like that. But later on, like I say, when he died, we got the man to come here and work while he was funeral there at home when he...
So you'd go over to a friend's house and...
Right.
Okay. And what did
Play
you...
Nintendo.
Okay. And if we were going to take away all your electricity, what would you want to keep? One thing that you'd want.
Just one thing, the heating and cooling unit.
So you do without the lights.
Yeah. Right.
Go back to kerosene.
I reckon you'd have to, well, you'd go back to now to a gas lantern, what you'd go to now, you know. Well, as time went along, time changed when we got trucks, you know, to dig holes with, you know. Things kind of changed and picked up, see. And it didn't take you long to build a job when you got trucks to do the job with.
Change that happened from having to drill by holes by hand to the machines again.
Well, it didn't take near as long to build the job once we got the machinery, like it did by hand. See, you go out inside a lot of times, you wouldn't get but one hole dug in one day. And you had to dig it 7 foot deep, see, with them long handle hole diggers. But things really changed though as they got the machinery though, picked up then. Could build a lot more jobs too, see, when you got the machinery.
That was about just as good as going from no power to power.
That's right, yes sir.
What other changes have you seen in the co-op?
Well, they've, right offhand I couldn't say much change. Of course they've got bigger all the time, you know, the co-op has. They started off here, I think, when I first come to the co-op, they didn't have about 400 members when I come here. Now I think we got better than 22,000, ain't that right, Brad? So times change, things, you know, kind of picked up, you know.
Now you've been here long enough, you really know the heart of this co-op. I mean, this co-op was here to serve the people.
Right, yeah.
What do you think when you hear people bickering about the co-op? I mean,
well,
you know how hard you've worked.
Well, the people bicker about the co-op because they bicker about the prices, see. See, when I first come to the co-op, the kilowatt hour was 3 cents per kilowatt hour. Now, how much is it now, Brad? About 8?
About 11 cents.
Right, so that's how much it's changed over the years, see. Well, the best thing the co-op done for the area is get lights in them, you know, for the area. That's the best thing they've done.
And now I guess the best thing they're doing.
And that's helped people more than anything else, the lights. See, we couldn't do without lights here now. You couldn't get no water, nothing like that, see.
Serviceman for how long?
I was serviceman from 1962 till about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So.
About how many poles do you think you've climbed in your career?
God, ain't no telling. I climbed more poles than I've ever been at the Wiregrass, so.